January of 2021, we started with 2001, A Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. We had just come off of a tumultuous year in 2020. COVID, lockdowns, zombie films, political films, an election. So we start off strong. A film for cinema history. What say you, Rick?
What say I? You know what? I've seen this film 3 or 4 times at this point. The first time I ever saw it was with you, if you recall.
Yep.
We saw it at the we saw it at the Cinerama Dome at the ArcLight Theater in Hollywood, and it was a thing that I had been waiting for years. I wanted to see it in that theater. I wanted to see it in that arch dome, and I wanted to have the power that it did. And I remember being blown away by it. And all of these years later, I can still say, and I would argue that this is the case for the majority of people who have seen it. I don't know what the hell that movie is. I'm not really sure what it's about. I have ideas. I can speculate on the meaning of life and the purpose of humanity in that film, the things that we do to ourselves, and the power that technology has over us, even in what was it, 63 or 64 that this film was made? Or was it later, 67?
I think it was later. I think it was 60, 67, 68, something like that.
So 67, 68. Special effects that are still cutting edge, I think. Beautiful to look at. I mean, yeah, you can do all that shit with computers at this point, and I feel sorry for audiences of today who will not have the excitement of seeing something as incredibly new as Kubrick's vision was in that film. But if you watch it now, the ideas are still there. They're still beautifully realized and difficult to comprehend. And I don't think that it's a film. I don't think you can put it in the category of regular films, because it's more than that. It belongs to that cinema of poetry where so much of it is beyond logical thinking and reason. And shit, that whole last 20 minutes of it, I don't know what the fuck that movie is. The opening, yeah, you know what I mean? You can speculate, and I think there's good speculations, and I think there's a good commentary on the dawn of man into the space age. But then the end, it's like, the monolith, the end, that fucking acid sequence at the end. I'm saying acid sequence because I'm reducing it to that. Don't put that on my interpretation of Kubrick. You know what I mean?
I'm also interested in the way that works. So the way that I want to start exploring some of that in our shows.
What exactly are you talking about? What specifically do you mean? Okay,
I'm getting there. So and you had done this in the last episode, and we were going all over the place. So but here you say, well, acid sequence. Mm-hmm. And the idea of like, someone at work yesterday, someone at work, coincidentally, a film guy too. Mm-hmm. So he knows, but also as a film person, you know the films you've seen, and then you know the ones that you haven't seen yet, or whether you know about what they're about or not, you know of those films. So then you get into the territory of like, what have I seen? Did I see it? Did I remember it correctly? Blah, blah, blah. So he goes, because even we were talking about soccer, which is one of the ones that we ended with on the last episode. The second to the last. So then He's like, what is it about? 2001. And I was like, well,
always the best way to start the best. I have no fucking real idea, but I can guess. Answer.
and you're looking up, and you're looking up to the right because that's how you've heard that's what people do when they lie. And so I'm about to make some shit up. Let me access my right brain, my creative brain, right? I'm just like monolith, sci-fi, AI, space, fucking Kubrick. Watch it. You know what I mean? Because it's like whatever you can say, whether it's a fucking 2,000 word fucking essay or blog post or whatever the fuck it is, or this or whatever, it's not gonna be the same. It's like you said, and the reducing it aspect of like, for any movie, you can reduce what the movie is to some tagline or some kind of just way to sum it up in a way that's the most like lowest common denominator.
Yeah, Die Hard on a bus. That's how they sell shit today. Or that's how they did it 30 years ago too.
But that's also how fucking how last episode was about optics and media and how the political landscape is all about how it's views and how we interpret that, and as a professional wrestling thing, as a film, as a whether it's a documentary, there's a Bruder or whatever. This is kind of like we're talking about how do you interpret things and just break it down to a fucking blurb. Well, it's an acid trip sci-fi Kubrick film, whatever, right? Malcolm X, angry black guy movie. I mean, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
And then the counter argument is like, well, no, it's fucking not. And so I'm interested in exploring films from that perspective of like, well, okay, Irreversible, 9-minute rape scene.
Yeah.
But obviously the conversation is going to be how it's so much more than that. You know what I mean? But just kind of like the idea of like acknowledging the simplistic fucking thing from the get-go and questioning is that like, why do we arrive at that versus actually what else it is? It's just easy to describe shit because it's like, well, I don't know how to fucking describe 2001. So I'm going to say acid trip. And an acid trip, how do you describe an acid trip? You want to fucking know? Terrence McKenna will say, take the fucking trip. And that's the easiest way. And so it's kind of like we're fucking just trying to describe all these acid trips, as these films as acid trips. And it's like, ultimately, you got to fucking watch the movie.
Well, that's
the next best thing is going to be to listen to us because why the fuck not?
Yeah, we're going to break it down and we're going to be honest about it.
We're going to fucking do what we do. And we're huge. We're huge.
Well, here's the thing about that is that you can't trust. All you can give yourself over to is your own interpretation. You can't trust somebody, and I've always said this.
And you can't trust that either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can trust that more than something that I or you say. It's gonna matter to you differently, because as you have been more than willing to point out in the past, I can be very dismissive of certain films, genres, and types. But also, if you're trusting
and types of people,
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Always. But also,
look, that's your word. That's your motto.
Yeah. But if you're gonna,
that was your first word.
If you're gonna just
when you're learning to speak,
dismiss. If you're going to trust the taglines or the marketing campaign, you're going to miss out on a lot of great films because they're not selling what's necessarily on that screen. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Joe Carnahan's The Grey, which is probably the best example that I can think of in recent memory of a studio either not knowing what the fuck it was that they had or being woefully unable to market it as what it was. So you get Liam Neeson fighting a wolf. That's so fucking simplistic an idea of what that film is.
What it is.
But then there's one moment where he fights a wolf, really. But it's man versus nature. It's man versus self. It's man finding purpose. That makes for a deeper film, but it's not going to sell tickets in the way Liam Neeson fighting a wolf is going to. So my point is, you have to evolve to the point as a movie watcher, as a book reader, as a music listener, as anybody who takes in the art. You have to evolve. You have to evolve in the understanding that what you are watching, what you are absorbing, is art. And art exists on a number of different levels. You have to find out what is being said on screen and how it relates to what you've experienced in life. 2001 is the imagination. It's the mind. It's the magic of not knowing who we are, what we are, or what we're even supposed to be doing here. That's, for me, that's what the movie is about. It's the uncertainty of purpose. And I could be completely wrong in that, but that's what it means to me. Probably. Well, maybe.
I mean, it's like, are we fucking throwing the bone into the air, or is the bone fucking throwing us, you know? Mm-hmm. Ask Cal.
Yeah.
Basically. That's it. Episode 305. Masterpiece. From there, we moved on into
a different masterpiece.
Yet another masterpiece.
Yeah.
306. Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, a film that you've brought up a lot. You bring it up a lot.
A movie that lives in my heart and lives in my mind rent-free. It's there in the best way, in the best fucking way imaginable, because it's in some ways it hurts other films because nothing can be as great as Kurosawa's masterpiece. No, nothing compared to it. It's so much to the point where when I watch Kurosawa, I have to forget Seven Samurai for a while, because otherwise I would walk out of every movie going high and low. That was no Seven Samurai. Yo, Jimbo, that was no Seven Samurai. It's unfair to the films that have come afterwards. But what is beautiful about Kurosawa's film is that it is, first of all, it is the template of everything that has come after it as far as recruiting a team to do a job. And how many times have you seen that? I mean, shit, they've made 4 Expendable movies. It's Seven Samurai. You know, we talked about the remakes, the Sturgis remake, the Antoine Fuqua remake. Pixar made a Seven Samurai film. It's called A Bug's Life. That was episode 307. So the movie is so fucking important that it exists as its own thing that we had to talk about. But then we had to talk about, I don't know if we had to, but I wanted to, and I think you were on board with it. We had to talk about the other films that have come in the wake of it. Comedies, John Landis's Three Amigos, remakes, the Seventh, Magnificent Seven, both iterations, cartoons, A Bug's Life, superheroes, The Avengers. It's all building a team to do a job. And I don't think any of those films have ever even come close to equaling what Kurosawa did. It's an incredible film with great performances, a very, an iconic star-making performance by Toshiro Mifune, but also a performance by Takashi Shimura that is very underrated and not, it's left in the shadow of what Mifune is doing on that screen. How could anything not be? But watch it again and watch just Shimura. And you'll see the beauty and the magic of what he's doing on that screen. It's very
visible.
subtle. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, once again, fucking the influence of Kurosawa.
Mm-hmm.
From there, episode 308, Carpenters They Live, all out of bubblegum.
I hate the fact that that movie is more important today than it was when it came out in 88. A movie like that should have been a solution. It should have been a wake-up call. It should have been us realizing the dangers that we were facing. The very fact that the world is an uglier place today than it was when John Carpenter was slapping you in the face with the ugliness of Reaganomics and consumer culture. I think it's an embarrassment that something as blatantly honest and foretelling, we would ignore the lessons. It's an incredible
crazy
film,
because
yeah.
You have, in that period, you have films like this, or you have that series V, where you have these like reptilians. And then you're going to get like the David Icke's, if you know conspiracy theories, you know who that person is, Englishman, way off the deep end. And there used to be a time when, obviously conspiracy theorists argue amongst themselves. And they agree on certain things, but it's kind of like, it's the details, right? Yeah. So Alex Jones used to fucking criticize David Icke because he was like, it's sad, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, David Icke gets so many things right, but when he brings in all that alien bullshit, he discredits the whole argument. And then it becomes, well, in that case, he might be a fucking CIA disinformation guy because he's here to fucking like blah blah blah. And so they're all like, who's got the biggest conspiracy dick, right?
Yeah.
And they're all out there measuring it. And who's CIA, and who's actually COINTELPRO, and who's this and who's that. And it turns into this thing about the ruling elite are fucking reptilian, like literally reptilian. Instead of just like, what's fucking scarier? Like the metaphor is what we're actually dealing with. It's like, they're fucking cold-blooded reptilian fucking assholes, not literally, but in their beliefs and their practices and the way that they exploit and abuse and use. That's the fucking fear. But then it turns into, well, again, going back to the last episode that we did, it's kind of like, everybody thinks that they have the fucking glasses to be able to see the reality. Everyone thinks that they're red-pilled, that they're like, oh, now that I've reached this form of enlightenment because of QAnon, now I know the reality. Look, Roseanne agrees with me. Why the fuck? Of course it's true. Mel Gibson agrees with me. Jim Caviezel agrees with me that like millions of kids are like disappearing in that one pizza shop, and Hunter Biden's laptop like is basically the Infinity Gauntlet that's gonna fucking like fuck everything up. Why not? And then the other side is like, it's fucking right there. They're fucking doing it right in front of your eyes, And then the other side is like, nope. They're doing it in front of your eyes, and you're missing the point. And we're out here in the fucking alley body slamming each other. Each of us trying to say, who's Roddy Piper? Who's the actual professional wrestler or actor guy? Supposed to be from Scotland, but from Canada. As a character. It's... Of course it's fucking relevant, because fucking that's who we are. The American culture produced They Live, which is a reflection of it, in the same way that fucking American culture produced Andy Warhol, which is a fucking reflection of it, when he sells it back and he says, this is you. Give me your money while I critique it. that's what it is. And it's fucking scary. And at that point, it's kind of like, as consumers and as like consumers in terms of the money wise, but also consumers of the media, we're fucking complicit. But the thing is that's who we are. That's who we fucking are.
Yeah, that's the frightening thing, is that we're complicit in our own self-destruction, and because of greed and selfishness and an inability to recognize the true villainy. I mean, it's amazing.
And also the desire to look into the fucking flames of the train wreck.
Yeah.
We have that overwhelming fucking desire to see it. And there's a dark part of us that fucking when it's not there, there's a secret shadow part of us that wants it there. We always have to have the train wreck of yesterday, the train wreck of today, and the future fucking the ones that we're fucking afraid of and potentially hoping for. From there, we moved into a period of erotic films. We started doing a series on erotic films. So we started episode 309 with the Unbearable Lightness of Being, with Daniel Day-Lewis, Juliette Binoche, and Lena Olin. From there, episode 310, we did Bernardo Bertolucci's Last Tango in Paris, very controversial film with Marlon Brando, Maria Schneider, a lot of allegations, very sexual, very abusive. That paired with Oshima's In the Realm of the Senses. From there, 9.5 weeks, Adrian Lyne, and 50 Shades of Grey. So kind of exploring sexuality in cinema, also, as it borders with pornography, softcore porn, Cinemax, or the Skinemax kind of genre, and that model of filmmaking. Interesting stuff, kind of a departure, getting into ideas of BDSM, doing James Spader, we gave him an episode. So Sex, Lies, and Videotape, The Secretary. We left off, we didn't do the Crash movie that he did with Cronenberg because it deserves its own episode, which we still have yet to do.
It's one that we really need to get to at some point.
Yeah, so from there, we went into
noir.
The noir kind of origins of kind of that idea of and where it intersects with the erotic thriller, and how the femme fatale goes from that into the utter absurdity, satire, ridiculousness, but also steaminess of Verhoeven's Basic Instinct, and the extremes of that. And it was a fun little period that we were exploring some of those films, a little different direction that we went in. From there, we went. You did a show on Nicholas Ray. They Live by Night and On Dangerous Ground. Then we went into a period where we were talking about serial killers.
We started on that road. It was interesting.
Yeah. So we started episode 315 with the Netflix documentary about the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. So that was one that's really, I guess, in a weird way, and personal, but not personal, because I never had fortunately, I never had, or no one, I don't know anyone who had this deep run-in with Richard Ramirez, although one of our friends says that he saw him at or who could have been him at a laundromat one night in San Gabriel Valley.
The laundromat that I went to often.
You know that one.
I know the one. Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
So interesting episode, and just I go into kind of what was it like as a kid in the '80s,
Growing up with the
in
specter
LA.
of fear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the specter of fucking fear, and this guy's, climbing in people's windows, and we go into the crimes, we go into the documentary, and
Well, another
really
part
good
of it,
episode, one of my favorites to do.
it was a good episode, but it was also I like those. I like those films or periods of history where you start to see the changing face of an action or an event. And one of the things that it brought up was the emergence of the freeway system as a means of allowing serial killers to be in many places at one time, seemingly, or being able to commit a crime and then be able to, boom, get across town and be somewhere completely different, and it being the kind of thing that baffled police officers. I like the evolution of investigation, and those two guys talking about what it took to find Richard Ramirez, which would also
Yeah,
be discussed later on in David Fincher's dramatic retelling of the Zodiac Killer. How so many different law enforcement agencies were stumbling over each other because nobody wanted to give up the information because they didn't want to give up the caller. That's as a regular citizen, as somebody who just lives in this world, that's the kind of thing that really kind of scares you and pisses you off when you realize that. But you also have to take into account that's the nature of the business.
yeah. And when you say collar, you mean collar around one's neck. The collar meaning the apprehension, the arrest.
Yeah.
Not collar like as in phone collar.
No.
Yeah, I mean that's Night Stalker was episode 315. Zodiac we
It's a
touched
good one
on
to
in
go back to.
318. Yeah. Unsolved still to this day, Zodiac, and so it's fun episodes. The Night Stalker one was certainly, obviously the subject matter is not fun,
Yeah.
but the recording of it and the getting into that kind of fucked up material and the dramatization of it, or the way that it's shown via documentary or any kind of media form is always interesting. We had a problem with it because we thought it was a little bit it didn't really go into his origins, or actually glossed over them. But other than that, it was a good episode. I mean, a good film and a good episode to do. Yeah. We did, and I'm skipping over one. I'm gonna get back to it if you're looking at it. Don't worry.
I don't feel slighted.
I mean, this is a big one, so it's I'm kind of lumping these killer things together, and then those of you listening will understand what I'm talking about in a few minutes. But from there, we went into Summer of Sam, Spike Lee's film about the Berkowitz Son of Sam killings, and I'm pretty sure I don't remember now. In hindsight, I don't remember if the Netflix Son of Sam documentary was already out, or if it was, I probably talked about it.
I think you did. I didn't make time to watch it, but I had never seen Summer of Sam, so sitting down to watch that, I was really blown away. It's really nice to, when you have a filmmaker that you admire and that you really dig, it's great to jump on everything that they make. But in doing so, you don't save any kind of gems for later. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you grab. You just grab.
It's instant. It's instant, and you see it, and it's over. Summer of Sam was 1999. I didn't see it until 2021. So here's a Spike Lee film. Spike Lee being a director that I really admire. Hits and misses. I mean, the man makes good films, and he swings for the fences each time. But this was a film that I don't know why I had never seen it. I don't know why it had escaped my it had escaped that window of opportunity, but I had never gone back to it. I had never made time for it. Kino Lorber put out a pretty good disc on it, so I picked it up and it sat on the shelf for another 4 or 5 years until we got ready to do this. You had seen it. You had recommended it. You I don't think you've ever guaranteed that I would like something, but I think
I
you
never do that.
yeah, but I think you had a good idea that I would gravitate towards it, and I was really blown away because it's here's the thing about Spike Lee. Everybody thinks that he is only a black filmmaker, that he only does films that depict not just black life, but racism and its effect on the black community. He's a much more nuanced filmmaker than that. Everybody's judging him based on Do the Right Thing and maybe Malcolm X. But throughout his film, if you were going to call Spike Lee any kind of a filmmaker, I would call him a New York filmmaker before I would say anything else. He's a New York filmmaker.
Yeah.
I don't, with the exception of The Five Bloods, I don't think he's ever done anything that was outside of New York. Has he? Maybe that war movie that he made, but that's it. Everything is New York, born and raised. And
Centric. That's interesting. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that more.
yeah, The Five Bloods and Miracle at St. Anne are the only two films that I know of that aren't set in New York. And New York is, I think he's as much a New York filmmaker as Martin Scorsese is. They just
Or Woody Allen.
or Woody,
They're
oh,
kind
yeah,
of
which I think are basically your three. When you think New York, you think Scorsese, Woody Allen, and when you do think about Spike Lee, you would have to say, oh yeah, Spike Lee is a New York filmmaker. But it was great to see the way he depicted that neighborhood, the paranoia, and a very realistic depiction of what that type of fear would do to people. And it's a dirty little film in the way it's shot and the way it looks, and I say that as a plus.
yeah.
I love that about it. I'm not shitting on the film. What I'm saying is that it really does work with the time and the world that it's depicting. I really, damn, I was really overwhelmed by that movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting case. A lot of conspiracies around that.
Mm-hmm.
Process Church of the Final Judgment. So there's a crossover with Manson. There's a lot of just interesting shit that goes on with it. Actually, Black Klansman, I don't think is New York.
Yes, that's right. Black Klansman is Colorado, but
And
I think that
Get on the
character is
Bus.
New Yorker.
That's
Yeah,
Get on the Bus.
but I
Is
think
a
they start in New York.
Million Man March. Is that where they start?
Yeah, I think so. I might be wrong,
So
but I
it's
think
like
they do.
it starts and ends in New York and pushes Spike Lee's heart, basically.
Yeah.
But interesting question to explore more.
Yeah.
But so that kind of period led us into the Hannibal Lecter films.
Yeah.
So we talked about obviously Silence of the Lambs. That's the big. Silence of the Lambs is the biggie. But we talked about, to a lesser extent, Hannibal, which is the weakest of all of them. According to us,
no,
Red
Dragon. I think was Red Dragon the weakest?
I think.
You think
Well, I mean, look, it's both. Maybe
I got
maybe
a
Red
prejudice
Dragon
against Red Dragon.
because Ridley Scott did Hannibal. But the point is, we did Silence of the Lambs and the other ones.
Yeah, but also you have to. Red Dragon is a Brett Ratner reinterpretation of Michael Mann's Mindhunter.
Yeah.
So already, Brett Ratner's biting off way more than he can chew. He's taken over something, and it's weird because Red
based
Dragon.
on the same. It's based on the novel Red Dragon,
Mm-hmm.
which the Mindhunter is based on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's based on the original material, but it sucks that he's touching something that Michael Mann already did.
It sucks that he's touching something that Michael Mann already did, but what's really shitty about it is he has a great cast that
Yes.
he is a shitty director at being able to handle. He can look at that cast. That's Norton, Ray Fiennes. Is it Ray Fiennes? Yeah, it's Ray Fiennes. Joan Allen, I
Mm-hmm.
think. Harvey Keitel, and Anthony Hopkins back as Lecter. And there's a few other people in it too, aren't there? I mean,
I don't
no matter
remember.
what it is, it's a pale comparison to what Mindhunter is, but it's comparing. Is that fair to Brett Ratner? Well, no, because you're a shitty director and Michael Mann is great, but you should have known that, and you shouldn't have taken the job. You should have let somebody else with talent do it. That's a shitty thing to say, but
I mean,
I think we
especially look,
lose.
like everybody's. You go to Silence of the Lambs and you say, "Ah, well, this is just the second book."
Mm-hmm.
Someone could have said this. They could have said, "Well, Thomas Harris, they made a book out of his first one. They made a movie. They made that Mindhunter movie. Michael Mann did it. Okay, whatever. So we'll see how it goes. Okay."
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know if Silence of the Lambs sold more books than Mindhunter. I don't know how it was in terms of publishing and in terms of how it affected. But once Anthony Hopkins turns that role
Mm-hmm.
into an iconic performance,
Yeah.
and everyone, I mean, look, going back to keep it to its most simple thing, it's Hannibal the Cannibal.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's much more than that. Jodie Foster is amazing.
She's incredible. Yeah. But
But
what's his name?
Angry Black Man, Malcolm X, right?
Yeah.
So it's that movie is about a cannibal fucking psychologist.
Yeah.
And then we go, well, yeah, but it's more than that. This is why. It's tough to fucking try to do anything related to that after
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins steps up with the fava beans and the nice Chianti. It's like you're fucked. So it is what it is. That's that. But another fun episode, talking about Hannibal Lecter as a vampire, and episode 319. It was just an interesting little period of we went from like erotic thrillers to fucking erotic killers, you know?
Yeah.
And in between that, milestone,
Yeah.
very important episode in your life, very important episode in the show's history. At this point, we had already been doing episodes on the phone for
Almost a year.
like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't seen you already in almost a year. Obviously, this was a solo episode for you. Episode 316. You decide to pack your bags and get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Goodbye, LA.
Yeah. It was I look back on it now and I see it as the best decision that I could have made. The best is, and I don't regret it at all. And that's not me trying to convince myself that it was the right thing to do. That if I had just stuck it out, I would have been happy. No, because COVID was what COVID was. The industry was something different. COVID was going to pass. The industry became something impossible to live in, and I saw no hope in it any longer. I saw no hope in scoring that big commercial or that role or whatever. And it wasn't a matter of, oh, get this and it'll lead to that. No, it was the understanding that this was no longer a viable business for the character actor or the working comic or whatever you wanted to call it. It was done. And by that time, I was working as a, what do you call it, a location manager, and that shit was falling apart because Jesus Christ, they just weren't. The productions had come to a halt, and there was a question of whether or not California would even sustain it. You got to remember, at that time, New Mexico was building a film industry. Atlanta was building a film industry. Vancouver had already done what it was doing. They were looking for opportunities all over the country because there was a point where California just priced everything out. I was depressed as all fuck. But depression doesn't change the fact that you gotta make a choice and start moving in that direction. And I made that choice. I don't even remember talking to you about it. I remember telling you. I think I remember saying, "I'm leaving." I don't think you were
Yeah.
surprised either.
No, it was kind of like there was so much uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just kind of, and obviously we were still in contact because
Yeah,
we're doing this and we're talking on the phone, texting, whatever the fuck. But
yeah,
it was just kind of like you got to do what you got to do. Like you got to fucking do what you got to do, and if it's no longer fucking sustainable, and you find yourself in that position, then you
yeah.
got to go.
Well, there was one thing where I was like, I had incredibly low rent. My rent was shit. My rent was $800 a month. And if you can't survive on with an $800 rent, you got to see it for what it is and get the fuck out of Dodge. And I knew. I tell people this. There was a point, I think 3 months into the pandemic, I said, I can either leave now with the little bit of savings that I have and start over again in Phoenix, or I can hold out until Christmas, but then I'm going to have to go home regardless, and I'm going to be completely broke. It was the best bad choice. I had nothing but bad choices around me, so I was surrounded by shit. I was going to go broke if I stayed in LA. It's not like I have money now, but I was able to get out and rebuild. And it's crazy because I have a handful of friends. Like, I don't count you among this because you have a family base, and you have a family base in LA. The people that I know that are from other places that are still there, that's few and far between. I can count maybe 3 people that are solid there, and the rest of them are counting down to when they can get out. Even at this point, they're trying to figure out what the next move is to get the fuck out of that place. Sometimes I wonder if I should have left a couple of years earlier, but I there were adventures, man. That episode was very emotional, as you can imagine. I mean, 20 years. Half of my 20s, all of my 30s, and half of my 40s. Comedy Store regular, 40 some odd jobs, valet, fucking boys' home attendant, substitute teacher, insurance salesman, tax man for a fucking maniac. Sacrifices were made. And between you and I don't regret it. Even realizing what the, because there's a I have a job now. I'm not going to say where I work, but I see people on the job, and I look at them and I say, "Wow, this has been your whole life."
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to downplay whatever the fuck that they. I don't mean to shit on what they've done with their life. That's not what this is. But it is the recognition that if I had done that, I would not have. If I had done that and only that, I would not have made it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and I mean, when you say made it, what does that mean?
What did I say exactly? Oh, I wouldn't have
Have
made
you
it. I
done
wouldn't have
what they've
survived it.
done?
I wouldn't have survived it. I would have drank and ate myself to death. I would have. I'd be around 350 pounds with a liver the size of a fucking basketball. I'd be miserable. If I had gotten married, I would have probably been divorced. I would have had kids that didn't want to talk to me. There's a lot of shit where you start to look at your life and you start to examine. And I don't want to be wholly cynical and pessimistic, but there are things about you that you have to recognize, and one of them for me was the need to do exactly what I did. And a wife and kids didn't play into that. The idea of the American dream, the job with the security, the wife and the kids, that didn't play into it for me. I don't know if that will ever be a reality for me. I have the job. I'm doing well on the job. But I don't know if the rest of that shit will ever fall into place for me. And I'm really not sure if I'm not even sure if I'm capable of making any of that work at this point in my life.
You gotta take Tony Montana's advice, man. First you get the money, man.
Right.
Then you get the power.
Yeah.
Then you get the women.
But don't you just
doesn't always work that way.
But you've also known me long enough to know, even if I had the money and the power, I'd be questioning everything, and it wouldn't sit right with me. I second guess everything.
Michelle Pfeiffer she'd be side eyeing you.
No, she'd be all coked out of her mind, and her fucking womb would be dead. So what good is she to me? Look at her over there.
Take a look at the bad guy. That's one that we got to do. But I mean, that episode was fucking. I mean, how? I mean, it's crazy. It's because like this show is about film, obviously. But then to be in and out of that industry, and then to live adjacent to the industry, and because it's the town, the industry, the monster, all of it, and then to be doing all that, and then you're a podcaster, so we're here talking about the industry and the films that it produces, and then all of that. Now, I mean, 20 years of investment in that dream, and obviously you cover all this in the episodes. So if you go back and listen to it, it's one of the major episodes, I think, of the show's history, episode 316, and very personal, very powerful. But like, obviously you really go into what it's like and what it means to fucking like fuck, like I'm leaving all of this behind. How, now that you moved and now that you're there, back in the city of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, how is it now podcasting? Does it just feel weird to be, and this is now years later, but to be doing it and not fucking so close to Paramount Studios, or does it? How did that affect your? Because you couldn't talk about it in the episode because you were going through it. But how does it affect, if at all, like the process of podcasting and talking about the city as much as we talk about it, as much as the industry and anything else, but the city itself, etc. How does it feel to be not there, to be talking about it every week?
Well, the obvious difference is that 4 years later can make a huge. It's not that I'm going back there in October, and it's going to be it's both intimidating and
Yeah, that's scary.
there's a curiosity and there's a curiosity and a fear in going back, because I'm almost positive that it's not the place that I left. It'll look like the place that I left. There will be elements to it that'll be the same, but it's different. And there's a part of me that I try to be a very realistic person. Maybe that's the problem, is that I didn't have that faith. One of the biggest things, I've talked to Joey Diaz about this, and I've talked to a couple of other friends about this, is that my biggest problem, according to them, and maybe partly to myself, is that I didn't have the balls to go full out on just the talent. But in the same regards, that's not always. You know what? It years later, what I realized was I wasn't built for the business. I wasn't built. I was good on stage. I was good at getting the laughs and performing, and if you gave me a script, I could deliver in that respect. But it is a business, and I was never built for it.
Yeah, it's a hustle. That's
the problem. I can hustle a job. I can wake myself up, get ready, and go teach school to kindergarten through high school. I can do taxes. I can run cars. I'm a very hard worker. But when it comes to being able to build and promote yourself, I never had that skill. I still don't have that skill. Look at our numbers.
Well,
but I'll say this much.
Yeah.
We deliver each and every week. That might sound egotistical, but this is a goddamn good show, and we do something that no other podcast is doing. We come at these films with both intellect and heart, and I don't think they do that.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, you answered all the questions, Joe.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Versus fucking America. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Make America Great Again means something to a certain type of person.
Mm-hmm.
Build Back Better sounds like nonsense. It's alliterative bullshit. It's not, hope. Yes, we can. Those things, like, they went over, they hit. The audacity of hope. Obama knew how to do the messaging. Qualified. I'm going back into the politics. Qualified. Clinton, lover or hater, whatever the fuck you think of her. Amazing resume.
You can't deny
Shitty
that.
cover letter.
Yeah. But also a bitch in a world that doesn't feel that its women should be that. She had no softness to her. That's what she needed to be, though.
I mean, yet we could have had a different version that was even more extreme. Sigourney Weaver could have gone up there and been like, I'm a bigger bitch. Get the fuck out of the way. And then everyone's voting for her. So it's all up for grabs.
Mm-hmm. Well, it like anything, it's how you play the hand.
It's how you play the hand, and what you're willing to do, and what you're willing to say. And there is casting couch, and I don't mean literally in the political arena, although like I'm sure that exists too. But I just mean going back to the Hollywood monster and the discussion of the town, the industry, all of that. It's very much fucking dog eat dog.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all imaging, and it's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and how do you fucking stand out? And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, this is just the fucking sign of the times.
Well, there's also the aspect.
Everything.
Yeah, you were saying. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I'll finish what you're saying, then I'll add to it because I. Yeah.
I won't finish if you let me keep going. I will. The you gave me a mic however many years ago, Rick.
I can turn the
You
mic off
created this
whenever I
monster.
feel like it.
I can go directly to the fans.
Go to the people. Do
buymeacoffee.com/Ibrahim.
one word, hope.
And it's like, hopes and dreams,
Yeah.
It's a town that's kind of, I mean, at this point, it's a metaphor for all of it. It's kind of like, whether you're online or where the fuck you're at, whether you're on the job, whether you're in the office, whether you're in the factory, whether it's kind of like paradigms shift, narrative shift.
Mm-hmm.
During the pandemic, some people were able to leave the workplace, the workspace, and work remotely. Other people had to continue to fucking show up. And that's, the essential workers, the medical
Mm-hmm.
people, but also like the people that were fucking in the stores and in the supermarkets, and having to deal with that shit every day. Some people lost work. It just upended everything. We're still feeling the financial ramifications of it. It was just one of those things that just fucked everything up. And to be in that, and to be in an industry where it's kind of like, how do you fucking make movies? How do you do this? And then you get, well, let's try this. And then Tom Cruise is fucking screaming because it's kind of like so much is on the line. And everyone has to be under the same vision. And when you have health and you have all of this shit in the balance, it's kind of like it's crisis mode. And people like, I'm going to speak for you.
Mm-hmm.
People like you, people like me. So, one professor one time, amazing professor, brilliant. And I had a lot of great professors, and he was one of the greats of the greats. You don't know him. You'll never know him. No one will ever. I mean,
Yeah.
he published these great books. Okay. In his world, right? Niche. One day, we were talking after class, and he just kind of like leaned kind of slightly towards me, and he was like, beware. It was like, don't fall for the tendency to get caught up in obscurity, to admire it.
Yeah.
He's like, I have that. Of himself, he said that.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything. But yeah, and I mean, like, and I was not in this. I was not Hollywood.
Well, tell the people what that means to you.
What means to me?
To be
What he said?
to be taken in by the obscurity. What was the exact quote?
Yeah, he said something along the lines of to not fall for the tendency to like admire or
Mm-hmm.
to be possessed by or enthralled by or seduced by or whatever obscurity.
Yeah.
And that means to me this kind of this thing of like, well, I don't want to sell out, and I'm gonna be
Mm-hmm.
fucking like, I don't care if like I want to be underground. I don't care. I want to be obscure. I want to be fucking. It's better to do that and to be truly yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these things that sound very authentic, but at the same time are cliches too.
Well, for me, it's like, don't be Bill Hicks, don't be Greg Giraldo, don't be Gilbert Gottfried, don't be these guys that comics know, but nobody else does. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's a romanticism to that. Don't be Paul Mooney. If anybody, don't be Paul Mooney. Don't be unbending in any manner.
And
You lose more.
although I don't, yeah, and I don't take it that he was just like, no, you need to fucking like,
No, yeah, I know what you mean.
you need to get out there, you need to schmooze, man, you need to fucking like, start networking, man. Like, come on, like it wasn't that. It was just kind of like when taken to an extreme, it's you end up in that extreme. You know what I mean? Like, and the choices we met doing theater.
Yeah, you and I. You mean you and I?
You and I.
Yeah.
You and I met doing theater. Live theater.
Pointless.
In LA. Live theater in LA. And not on like the Theater Row on fucking Santa Monica, like where
our gang type
or
shit.
Magnolia or in Magnolia in the Valley, where there is kind of like more of an active however active it is, however many heartbeats.
You can say that, yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't Fringe Fest, and it wasn't in college, where yes, theater is alive and well in college, on campuses, or at some regional fucking theater, where they're doing like Our Gang or something like that. It wasn't that. It was downtown fucking LA, black box theaters doing really, really small, nitty gritty fucking stuff in these places, and in the fucking literal, in buildings that had the fucking where United Artists started, where it had the literal ghosts of fucking old Hollywood. And it's the ghosts of old Hollywood get more audience than the fucking living, breathing actors doing these shows in those same fucking drug-addled, fucking crazy, people-infested buildings. And when I say infested, I'm not comparing fucking people to rodents and all that shit. That's not what I mean. So it's just crazy that it's like the choices that we make out of love of the thing, or out of hard-headedness, or a love of obscurity, or whatever the fuck it is. It's kind of like, it's just kind of like, these are the things that we do. And it's weird to be creative in a performative genre, in a place where it's kind of like, well, the center of this is fucking okay, Comedy Store, that's over there, Sunset Strip, that's over there, these clubs over here downtown, or Ice House in Pasadena for comedy also, or for if you're gonna do live, if you're gonna fucking be stupid and do live theater in LA, okay, it's from here. It's a lot of times you find yourself in that fucking in that losing battle, because it's kind of like, maybe you're playing the right game, maybe you're playing the wrong game, but you're playing it in the wrong venue. But the writers' fucking strikes, the situation with the union, with SAG, the fucking dues that you had to fucking deal with,
and no work, dues,
no fucking work,
dues that are coming out of pocket.
No acting work, and no fucking work because the social upheaval and all this crazy shit.
And no work means no insurance. Remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the transition between, and I mean that had been already ongoing, but it's like we're also in the middle at this point of a position where it's what's happening to the fucking movie theaters.
Yeah.
And a few months later we did Tenet, Christopher Nolan's Tenet, but it's like he wanted to resurrect Christopher Nolan's like, no, we're gonna get everybody back to the fucking theater, and this is gonna be like, we're gonna resurrect this shit. And you're like, I gotta fucking get the fuck out of here. Like, it's these conflicting Hollywoods.
Yeah.
And the Hollywood on the street is like, nah, man, we're gonna shut down. And fucking the ArcLight, the fucking Cinerama Dome, is like, sorry, buddy, we're gonna close.
Yeah.
Like the fucking Cinerama Dome, which is this amazing theater that could have been a great place for later on when he brings up Prometheus. But it's just a weird place to find oneself where these movers and shakers in the industry, they themselves cannot, by sheer force of will, by creativity, by genius, by star-studded fucking marquee, by any of this shit, they couldn't shift the needle. They couldn't move they couldn't move the needle. And if they can't, it's like, how fucking crazy and intimidating and oppressive is it if it's like, fuck, man, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Everyone, I don't know about still, but it's like we grew up on this idea of like, oh, the Midwestern kid fucking leaves their farm and they come to fucking, Dorothy comes to the fucking Emerald City to make movies. And to be abused, basically.
Well, yeah, that's what it was.
And I'm not turning it into a conspiracy Pizzagate nonsense. I'm just saying, look, like the industry itself, by chewing you up and spitting you out, and I don't just mean you, I just mean everyone. Like the system itself, that's what it does. It can uplift you, but it'll also fucking sacrifice you, bring you down hard. Again, not fucking literally the fucking reptilian Satanist fucking elites of fucking Hollywood, blah blah. Let's just keep it what it is. So it's crazy that, like, I don't fucking know. For a while, I wasn't going to movies. I was fucking right there in front of the TV. And as it is, I myself have not been an avid moviegoer, obviously the way I was growing up and the way I was as a teen, and it seems to have like declined every decade. And when I think about this, what we've done, like over the course of all these years, I think about how many of those fucking movies that we've done, how many of them were like new releases?
Were really what?
A fraction. How many of them were new release films?
Oh, God, no. Yeah.
A fraction. And I mean, obviously, look, like we're looking, when you look at the history of cinema, most of the history of cinema is in the past, because we're here. We're at the tip of the fucking needle, right? So we're going back. That's what the show is about. We're trying to look at the future and the present, but I mean, it's really...
the fact is that the future doesn't deliver, yeah. I mean, we've talked a little bit about this off mic, and we've talked about it on mic. The importance of not wasting time. I don't have time to waste on a film that isn't going to deliver. I want to be challenged. I want a film that's going to kick the shit out of me. It's either going to make me laugh hysterically, it's going to make me cry, or it's going to challenge whatever ideas that I have. I want something. I don't want indifference. And every time, with the exception of Furiosa, I don't think I've walked into a movie theater where I had any kind of an investment in what I was seeing on screen. Killers of the Flower Moon and Furiosa are the only two great experiences that I've had in the movie theater in the last 5 years. It's been constant disappointment. Going to see a movie just to get out and see something. And sadly, that's just not enough anymore. and you just you go back to what you know is going to work. I got a couple of thousand movies on the shelves. I'm working my way through them because the likelihood of them being better than anything I can go see in a theater, that's a high probability. Now, there's going to be some
I mean,
duds, but yeah.
and that's fucking parallel to this idea of like, I gotta get the fuck out of town.
Well, I
It's
mean,
like,
yeah. I mean, look, you go
it's,
into a
it,
thing. Think about it. You went into theater. Why did you go into theater?
I fucking, I was just some fucking young asshole that was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I was interested in music.
Mm-hmm.
I started to write. I was doing like, I was the kid that they would give me fucking the Poets Market
Yeah.
that was a fucking, like one of my presents. Like, so I could fucking submit poems to magazines where my name would be buried, if they accepted it at all. And it was like, yeah, go get rejected. Like, um, like that's, I mean, that's how you get better. That's how you fucking like. That's
Yeah.
what you have to do. It's like auditioning. It's like going to acting class and having someone like break it down.
Yeah.
Um, and and then I got into painting and I was doing that and I just kept exploring and I just kept doing stuff and then I how did I get into podcasting? You know what I mean? Like you get into a thing and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh shit, I can connect on this and I have this avenue, I have this outlet, and it's not about the fucking like how many people can see it. It's like how many people of the people who see it can I expose them to whatever's in my brain or in my soul, um, and how can I push myself to transmit that thing and to be better and to be blah 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 blah. That's how I got into it, and it wasn't a conscious thing, and it's like the twists and turns of life. I never was interested in I was interested in the immediacy and the ephemerality of the ephemeral nature of theater, where there was something that was cool about the fact that like once this is over, it's gone. There was a time when I was like, that's fucking really cool. But I mean, that obviously because of the nature of it, it's a momentary thing. And so it is gone. You directed this interesting show in fucking this year, that no one remembers.
Yeah.
No one remembers the year or the show or what was said or what happened, or maybe they do remember what happened on Image, whatever, and it was like, oh shit, cool. That's cool, man. And then it's just kind of like, well, that just, if anything, maybe that makes me more interesting. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it depends. It's like, what do you want out of it? You know what I mean? If you want some kind of like longevity or you want some kind of success or legacy, that's a different thing. You want to reach a wider number of people. Okay. The thing is that part of that is going to come with fucking like, it is going to come with the messaging. It is going to come with the imagery. It is going to come with luck. It's going to come with where are you making a movie during a pandemic when fucking no one's going to the movies? Or are you making a fucking YouTube video that anyone can see? And then at that point, it's like, well, are you an attractive person that knows how to capitalize on that and make it compelling? Are you a non-attractive, by social standards, a non-attractive person? And so you're going against all that other bullshit. You're cutting through the noise, and you're like, you know what? My name is Jenny, and I'm an 18-year-old black man, and my name is Jenny, and I'm ugly, and it's called Black and Ugly Jenny, and this person magnifies everything that our shallow society fucking like is against, and this person's like, You hate me because I'm black. You hate me because I'm this. You hate me because I'm Jenny. You hate me because of blah, blah, blah. And then people respond to that. That person fucking blows the fuck up. And they did everything supposedly like against the grain. That's what made it good. Whereas Taylor Swift blew up also. It's like, as they say, there's no center of the algorithm. It's all fucking chaos.
It is all
How did fucking
chaos.
Donald Trump get in? It's luck, it's chaos, it's positioning. Sometimes it's strategy. Is it merit? Is it talent? Not necessarily.
It's none of those things, but it is one. And I mean, not to be too self-reflective, to not to promote the show, but I think it rings true in the words that we've opened this thing with so many times, and that we refer back to both jokingly and with all honesty. It's in him, and it's got to come out. And I think the fact that we continue to do this is because it's in us, and it's got to come out.
For sure.
That's as simple as it is. It's like, it could have worked out for me. I could have made a living doing this, doing stand up or acting, but I didn't. It's not to say that, oh, all of that was possible. I just didn't. I chose not to do it. I dove into obscurity. That's not what happened. I did everything that I could within my power to succeed. But I had enough sense to know it just ain't there. That doesn't mean that the talent wasn't there. It doesn't mean that the desire wasn't there or the appreciation. Some shit just doesn't work out. I left LA after 20 years. But the 20 years that I spent there were some of the best of my life. You and I had a friendship that lasted 11 years there. I have a handful of people in my life that I still talk to from there. But, and I was telling this to a friend, working the job that I work now, and I know it might sound like I'm trying to be funny, but maybe I am, but I'm not. I'm very serious. Working the job that I'm working now, I'm so glad that I spent the 20s and 30s drunk telling jokes. It was a great time. There was never a time. There were bad sets. There were times when I drove home pissed off because it didn't go the way it went. But if I thought that what I was doing right now was all that I had ever done, my life would have been spent wondering what if, but also wondering, why didn't I? I don't have to say why didn't I. I did it. And what could have happened? It happened the way it was going to happen. I wasn't built for it. But there are no regrets. There's a lot of good memories. And anybody who's still doing it, good for them. But for me, I gave it the shot. So when I did that episode, it was coming to terms with the decision. When I left in May of 2020, I felt like the biggest failure in the world. I don't even think my mom and dad talked to me for the first 2 or 3 days that I was home. I didn't want to talk to them. I didn't want to come out of that room. I didn't want to look at anybody. I was disgusted with life. 20 years, man. You don't just turn your back on that. You don't just walk away into the next thing. You have to dip your toe into those waters. But here we are, 4.5 years later, and we're doing a show that I'm proud of, and we're doing it in a way that I think is better than it's ever been. I'm very proud of this. I'm very proud of the friendship that I have with you. And I'm thrilled that we're going back into these episodes, listening to them and talking honestly and reflectively. The fact of the matter is that we shouldn't be doing this. This shit should have ended way before I ever asked you to come on board. If you look at the numbers and if you put it down on paper, I should have quit this shit 9.5 years ago. It's still going because we want it to go. And,
it's the podcast that wouldn't die.
Can't die. Can't fucking die. But it must come to an end. And we must come back next week to continue this, what do you call it? Slow crawl.
Yeah.
This slow crawl down memory lane.
I mean, and it's kind of, I mean, there is something self-indulgent about it, but there is also something self-indulgent about fucking opening your mouth at all. And if you don't take that risk, you don't communicate.
Let me tell you something. When you get on stage and you ask people to pay attention to what you're saying or doing, you're being self-indulgent. You're
when you get out of bed and fucking step out the door, you're fucking being self-indulgent. Look at me. I have shit to do in this world. I'm here. Do we not all have to do that? Like, let me fucking interact with these people that I may or may not want to interact with to do something to the day.
Yeah.
That's the fucking, not to be corny about it, but that's either the gift or the curse that you have to make it have to be a little bit of negativity in order to make it cooler. That's the gift or the curse that that you have to be here on this rotten planet. This beautiful planet, whatever it is. It's kind of like Hollywood is where the fucking heart is, man.
Well, I ain't quitting yet. I ain't done telling my stories. So, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Buy me a coffee. buymeacoffee.com/watch RickRamos. Even if it's $5 a month, every little bit counts. I get it. We are all dealing with the financials. Buymeacoffee.com/watch RickRamos. This one goes to Ryan Parker. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week as we move through what this far has been our fucking podcast legacy. All these movies that we've talked about, that we've shared with you, that we've laughed about, argued about, made fools of ourselves about, and have been into for 10 years and counting at this point. Until next time.
Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.